Whoever just connected, this is Federica, and it's my pleasure to welcoming you all to this live presentation of Dublin Business School. And I will now leave the floor to Neil Logan, who is the Business Development Manager at Dublin Business School. And I kindly invite you to write all of your questions into the Q&A section, and we will be answering at the end of the presentation. Neil, I'll leave you the floor then.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you're sitting in the world. Thank you very much for finding the time to drop by and find out a little bit more about what Dublin Business School in particular and Dublin and Ireland in general have to offer you as master's students. Okay. So what we'll be doing this afternoon, I will keep saying this afternoon because it is my afternoon and it's easier for me to remind myself when I am speaking. We'll go through a short introduction to DBS, give you some of the background to the school. We'll look at the academic year for 2021-22. What does it look like? What experiences you can expect when you come here? We will look at one of the areas that's most important to us and an area that we spend a lot of time and effort on, the student life, student experience, because we really need to make sure that anybody who comes to Dublin Business School really feels part of it and really gets the most out of their time in Dublin. And we will finish off by allowing you to ask us any questions you may have about DBS. So some of the brief numbers around DBS. We are the largest independent business school in Ireland. We have approximately 8,000 students, of which about 1/3 study part-time. So they will study evenings and weekends. We have in total between both bachelor level and master's level around 100 accredited programs, and we've been around for about 45 years. We manage every year to attract students from around 80 countries from all over the world. Of course, we add those students to the native Irish students, but we have quite a large proportion of international students. So the mix that we have on campus is quite amazing. And we also partner with a great deal of universities and business schools across Europe. And those universities partners will also send students to Dublin each September or January. So why choose DBS? Now, we have an award-winning student experience team, and Teddy will speak in much more detail later in this presentation about that team, what they do, and how they operate to make sure that you feel part of Dublin Business School. For European students, there is no need for visas, and you are still covered by the European health cover. Now, for non-European students, there is still a visa process to go through, and we would advise any student who is intent on applying for Dublin Business School to start that process as early as possible. We will be able to accept applications until quite late on, up to the end of August, but that is on the condition that all visa applications have been processed and are ready for you to travel to Dublin. We also have great career prospects, as you can see from the logos down there. All of those countries, including SAP, Salesforce, Pfizer, Facebook, etc., all have their European headquarters in Dublin. And that means that there's a great contact between the school and those companies. And those companies will come into us to give presentations, and we will do visits to those companies when COVID conditions allow, of course. They are always looking for students with linguistic ability, because the Irish are a great many things, friendly, happy, joyous people, but they don't often speak a great many languages. So if anybody is interested in a career, and master's students, no matter where you're from, can stay in Dublin for up to 2 years beyond graduation, then there are some really good opportunities. And the other thing about it is the perfect location. The campus is right in the heart of Dublin, which means as soon as you leave the classroom, you're right in the middle of everything that is wonderful about Dublin. Now, Dublin has a very young population, a very friendly population. And I always tell people, you can visit some of the big cities in Europe, Rome, Paris, etc., and you can spend an entire year there and nobody will ever speak to you. If you're in Dublin, I can guarantee within 10, 15 minutes, people are asking, where are you from? What are you doing? Giving you advice on what you can see and what you can do. So the school is Dublin Business School, and the greater number of students, of course, study things like management, marketing, business. But we also have many programs in the arts and computing and things like data analytics, psychology, social studies, etc. So we have quite a broad range of subjects that students can study at both undergrad, but obviously at MSc level, and also with a range of MBA products. The learning experience at DBS, we pride ourselves on being a very practical school. A lot of the large state universities will talk about their research agendas, etc. Dublin Business School is aimed at making sure that the education you receive will be making you ready to enter or to start your career once you leave DBS. It's not about theoretical study, although that underpins what you will do. It is really about practical real life examples, and we bring in many external faculty from industry, and they will also teach on the program. We use a system called Moodle, which supports the online delivery for all programs. And this year, starting in September, some of the modules and some of the classes will be delivered online, and the rest of it will be delivered in the classroom. It's what we call a hybrid version of teaching. Our academic operations are there to support the students through registration to graduation, and we develop personal timetables for each student in every class. We have a DBS service desk, which is always there should you need help with the IT, library, or anything. Really, any questions you have, our service desk will be there to help. And this year, again, we will be doing all registration and induction online. So the academic year, well, as I mentioned, given the COVID situation, every university and school across the globe had to adapt and deliver online, etc. We are very confident that the worst of the crisis is behind Ireland. The vaccination progress has been quite strong, and the numbers of COVID cases, daily COVID cases, are relatively low. We're amongst the lowest in Europe. So we plan for an enhanced higher and further education on campus for the new academic year. And that will mean that it's a mix of on campus and online. Our aim is to maximize face-to-face delivery for all European and international students. However, until we know the absolute numbers of students coming, plus any new regulations that the Irish government or even the European Union will impose on higher education, we won't be certain of the percentage of campus time and the percentage of online. So what is the benefits of studying masters at DBS? Now, as I mentioned, it's very practical, very relevant, very up-to-date, very career-focused. And if you compare with some of the locations, especially the UK or the US, the tuition fees are quite reasonable and affordable for students. We have a large range of Masters of Arts, Masters of Science, and MBAs. We do have entry requirements, as every university and business school around the world, and that is, our proof of English is IELTS 6.5 or another internationally recognized test. We do need a copy of your parchment, of your bachelor transcripts, with a record approximately of 2.2 is how it's described. So that means a reasonable degree, and depending on the subject you wish to study, you need your bachelor degree to have some relevance for that future study. For example, if you had studied medieval history as a bachelor's degree, we would not accept you for a master's in law or an MBA in business. There has to be some relevance of your bachelor's degree to what you wish to study with us. And we also need a copy of your CV or your resume. So some of the programs at DBS include an MSc in Management Practice, that's the General Management Masters, an MSc in Marketing, as you would find in most schools, and an MSc in Digital Marketing. That's particularly relevant to study in Dublin because we have such close contacts with, as I said, Google, Microsoft, LinkedIn, Facebook, etc., all having their headquarters in Dublin. For those interested, we also have an MSc in Human Resource Management, Accountancy and Finance, International Accountancy and Finance, which incidentally is part of the history of Dublin Business School. We started life as the School of Accountancy and Finance, so that is still a very strong and solid part of what we deliver. For those more technically minded, we have an MSc in Information Systems, Computing, also Information, Library Management, Business Analytics. So everything is career focused and it is delivered in a tailor-made learning environment. You'll be learning in small groups, doing a lot of project work, group work, and it is, as I said, aimed at making sure you're ready to take that first step into your career by the time you leave DBS. So some of the more recent additions to DBS portfolio of programs, we're offering an MSc in FinTech, another one in Data Analytics and Information Systems and Computing, Artificial Intelligence, MSc in Cybersecurity and Financial Analysis. Again, Dublin has become and is growing as a financial hub for Europe. So a lot of investment banking opportunities exist for students who follow those MSc programs. And as I said, for European students, of course, you have the right to stay and work beyond your MSc. For non-European students, you will have the right to stay for 2 years post-masters and work in Dublin. We also offer, as I mentioned earlier, programs outside of the business field, an MA in Addiction Studies, Psychoanalytic Psychotherapy, and Applied Psychology, all with specializations in psychology. I hope nobody has any technical questions to ask me about psychology or addiction studies, etc., because you would have to wait for an answer. I'm pretty good at answering about business subjects. Psychology is a little bit beyond my comfort zone. But again, those qualifications will give you access to a career in public service, hospitals, both public and private, etc. And MBAs, we have a structure of a core general management MBA, but we also offer the possibility of doing that core and adding a specialism, or as the Americans would say, a major in the likes of cloud computing, finance, human resource management, information systems, marketing, and project management. The fees for the MBA are €12,500, which again are relatively affordable. Most of our other programs, MSCs and MAs, range from €8,700 to around €9,200.
So hi everybody.
Sorry, I will now hand you over to Teddy, who is based in Dublin and so knows firsthand much more about what is just about to be shown.
Hi Neil, thanks very much. So hi everybody, thanks very much for joining us this afternoon. So I will speak about COVID regulation, and I will just start to say that it's a situation at the moment. It can change till September. We know this by now. The first thing and the first website I would really advise you and recommend you to check would be like the Ireland COVID-19 Ministry of Foreign Affairs website, where you can find travel advices for Ireland. So all the rules below are for EU nationals. So from July 19th, there will be normally no self-isolation or quarantine with all EU nationals with EU digital COVID certificate. So the digital COVID certificate will be a digital document where it's going to be put if you are vaccinated, recovered from COVID-19, or if you have taken a negative PCR test in the last 72 hours if you are not in the 2 cases above. For non-EU national, it will really depend on the policy in Ireland at the moment. We have hotel quarantine for a list of country. So the hotel quarantine is a mandatory hotel quarantine when you arrive in Ireland. That has to be paid by yourself. The list of countries available on the website of the MFA, and is updated almost every week. Regarding the regulation and the travel, we have an FAQ on the website for European and international students that you can check with a lot of questions, several pages. We try to update it, and we really would like to tell you that if there is any major change and you are enrolled for a degree with us, we will keep you up to date with the travel regulation before your move to Ireland. The current situation, we have now restaurants and bars open outdoors. All the cultural activities, museum, galleries, and cinemas opened in the last weeks. All the sports activities also started last week. So the gym, swimming pools, and leisure centers are now open. What we expect to be open in July and over the summer will be indoors for restaurants and bars, maybe nightclub and casinos. There will be the return of all group sports and contact sports for matches and classes. And then, more related to Dublin cultural life, gathering, concerts, and so on, indoors and outdoors. And later on in the summer, and maybe it would be easier to reach Ireland and to travel to Ireland, international travel will be fully reopened by the end of the summer. It's a plan of the Irish government at the moment. Neil said previously, we have an award-winning student experience team. So really our purpose is at DBS is really to make you have the best experience from the application to the delivery of your transcript and of your degree. So we have several persons that will be around you through all the way. So there is a student experience team. So it's a team of DBS employees there to help you for accommodation, for your first steps when you arrive in the country. They will have meeting with you. They will organize gathering for all of the students. The second group will be the students union. So it's a student union representative that are going to be around you and organize, let's say, more fun activities for you. Then on the academic side, we have the peer mentors. So the peer mentors is a system where students of your field, so if you are studying business, it will be a student in one of the degree we have in business, that will be there to help you if you have any trouble or any difficulty in one of the modules. They will be there to give you the right tips and guidance to make you pass the module and your degree. And then we have the class rep program where students elect representative for their degree that will be there as well to help you. So it's really like a different range of people that will be there to help you and to guide you when you will be enrolled at Dublin Business School. One of the aspects that we really insist, and Nila has done it so at the beginning of the presentation, it's a career. We really have a practical teaching, and we are doing all the necessary steps to make you have a job when you leave the school. So we have a careers hub. So it's a free access for all of the students. They have full-time and part-time position. They can look at your CVs. They can make it more international. They can help you with the cover letter as well. Every week and still now we have industry guest speakers that are coming in the college. So now it's called the networking night, where alumni working in the big tech, pharma, IT companies are just giving their experiences about the job market. And also we hope very soon to resume the company visits. So you can see in the pictures the company visits we organized in 2019. In the big tech companies, we have very strong links. And as Neil was saying before, they are really seeking employees with a double skill, so language plus a skill in the field most of the time. One of the key points as well when you move is the accommodation. So we don't have our own accommodation at DBS, but we work with one accommodation providers called Brickworks. So the residence is like 20 minutes walk from the campus. Each room is en suite. You have many storage inside of the residence. You have a gym open 24/7, a cinema. You have a terrace on the rooftop. You have study rooms and so on. Everything is included in the price. You can book this residence for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, for a semester, or for a year long. You have an option if you only book 4 weeks to extend to stay more. And if your country or if you have to set as late in the guidelines, it's still fully compliant with COVID-19 regulation. You can see the pictures of the room on the left side. The cost will be around €1,000 per month. But if you have any questions related to the accommodation, you can contact us, and we will guide you to the student service team that will be there to help you. If you decide to go on the private sector to rent, we have some tips for you. So you will mostly rent a room or a shared house or apartment in Dublin city center or a bit further. The college is really hit the heart of the city, so the accommodation will be cheaper outside of the city center, like as many cities in the world. We really advise you to arrive in Dublin at least 1-2 weeks prior to the start of the courses to have time to look for good accommodation instead of coming and start your courses when you are still looking for something. If you are considering to rent in Dublin, just ask us questions about the neighborhood. If you have friends in the city, you can contact your friends. The only big advice we have is don't transfer any money without signing a contract, and be vigilant about international bank accounts. If you have to transfer the money on a non-Irish bank account, please be very careful about it. We have an accommodation guide. It's available on our website with many more information, many more tips. And the main website we recommend to find an accommodation are listed on the left side of the slide. The biggest one is dav.ie, that is the most common to find an accommodation in Dublin. About the team, the student experience teams. So they organized many events. Even during lockdown, they were organizing plenty of fun activities. They have more than 250 events and activities organized in the past 4 months. So every day there is something happening related to a field of study or related to something more fun or related to the career prospect and so on. There is many clubs and societies as well. DBS is national champion in basketball, but we have clubs as well. There is a business society, there is a language society, there is a music society. There is really a society for all the tastes, and there are also career-focused societies. As we say, we try to do our best for you to really link as much as possible your studies and your environment to find a good position when you are out of your studies. So there are workshops on leadership and employability that are organized as well by the students experience team almost every week, and this workshop are running for the past year now. For September 2021, what can you expect? So it will be a blended student experience. So we won't be able at the start to have all the activities back face-to-face. It will be a mix between face-to-face and online. We have the first 100-day program. So the first 100-day program, it's an even more intensive calendar of events and activities. For the 3 first months you are enrolled in the college. There will be groups, trips, also organized in the weekend. Usually there is a walk in the Dublin Mountains, there is a swim in the Irish Sea, and we organize trips as well on the west side of the country. There is a surfing trip organized every semester. The Club of Society will resume in the college and outside the college, and hopefully the Dublin social life will be back. I can tell you this, the city is already busy, like the pubs opened 2 weeks ago, and the city is getting back to more normality now, and it will be quite enjoyable, I think, by September. Finger crossed, but it should be like way more enjoyable, and you should have a good time in Dublin if you decide to come. So there are the highlights usually of our students. So some of the pictures were taken pre-COVID, as you can see, but some of them were taken this year. So usually we start with a hike or with a walk in the city last year. So there were several different type of hike. There is also the swim in the Irish Sea. Usually it's quite cold, but the students most of the time love it just to have a jump and have the experience. You can see here on the left side, it's a Freshers Week. It's a week where all the clubs and societies are introduced to the students, and it's a picture of the International Day where all of the students bring their own food and they share it with other ones. And you can see, yeah, like a picture here. It's a surfing trip organized at the end of every semester, and we close the year with an award ceremony and night where all the students which has a degree are coming, and it's really a great night for all of the students. And we're also doing some charity work. So this picture was taken in Tanzania for one of the charity running in the college. So really, like, no matter your taste, no matter what you like, you will find some good activities for you and a dynamic student life if you decide to enroll to Dublin Business School. It's very important. We put like some information about the cost of living. So the first one, the accommodation, the range is pretty big. I know, but it really depends of the taste of the student and of the budget of the student. If you would like a big double bedroom in the heart of the city center, yeah, it's going to be €1,000 per month. If you are ready to live a bit further in the city, it will be around 600. All the bills, if you live in accommodation, shared with other people, it will be between a bit less than €100. The transport can be a bit more expensive than what you are used to, around €100 as well. And then your main budget will really depend about your way of life and your nightlife. when you will be in Dublin. Some students spend less money than others. It's the same thing, but yeah, per month count between 11 to 1,800 euros when you live in Dublin, mainly depending on your accommodation and nightlife when you will be living there. You can find more information about the degrees on our website, www.dbs.ie. If you would like to have more thing about the student life, I advise you to follow Instagram or Facebook. Our generic address is admissions@dbs.ie. If you are EU, non-EU, there will be always someone to answer and to reply to you in 48 hours. You have also a number phone. We are back in the office, or we are able to take calls, and we'll be happy to talk with you if you have any questions that cannot be answered by email. So this is all for the DBS presentation, and we'll be now open for your questions.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Neil and Teddy for the presentation, and it's been very interesting to find out more about Dublin Business School. Actually, while you were presenting, we started to receive some questions, and it would be great to have a look at them together. So one of the first questions, so we've been talking about some sort of background that are needed for certain program. So they're asking if, for example, someone comes from an undergraduate degree in biology, would it be possible to switch into something more related to marketing or management, for example?
We would have to look at what they had studied throughout their journey. To study marketing at master's level obviously needs some business content. You can't jump straight into a master's level program without knowing anything about general business. I would assume in biology you would have mathematics, etc. So it would really depend on some of the earlier studies and how much of that was very scientifically driven compared to sort of general management type programs.
And in case someone, for example, doesn't have quite the right background, is there any possibility to attend some sort of preparatory courses in order to fill maybe the gaps?
We don't have foundation courses for master's level, no.
Okay, so in that case, I believe it would be cases by cases. They might submit an application and have a look.
That is correct. And even, before sending in a formal application and stuff, they could send their CV and a list of the subjects they studied and say, is this okay? And we can pass that on. I mean, decisions like that tend to be taken by faculty. So we would pass it to the head of marketing, and they would decide. Perfect.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. Questions about, so we heard about Dublin and how international the environment is. So they're asking if how many international students are enrolled at Dublin Business School, and if in order to be enrolled there is an interview to pass, and if that's the case, what will be asked? So what's the best way to prepare for the interview?
Firstly, on the interview, we don't do interviews, except it may be necessary. We gave the example of the biology to marketing. In that particular instance, if there was some sort of doubt, then the member of faculty may ask to speak to the student, but there's no formal process of that. So we wouldn't be asking all students to go through an interview. And your other points?
It was about how many international students are enrolled at Dublin Business School roughly every year.
It's around about a third of our students are international. It's slightly higher at MSc level, but probably about 40%. But overall, it's about 30% of all students.
Perfect. Megan is asking if it's possible to direct a career towards game development. So you've listed a number of programs available, and asking if there is any sort of master that could prepare someone to potentially land into game development jobs.
It's really not my speciality. We do things like web design and data analytics, etc., which I'm sure would be a good platform. But whether there are specifically gaming type modules, I wouldn't be able to say. But if somebody has specific questions, again, they could send us an email with what exactly they're looking for, and we could check with those who know a bit more about gaming than we do.
Perfect. Lisa was wondering about the level of English required in order to enroll into a master's degree at DPS.
Yeah, again, as we said in the presentation, at master's level, it's the equivalent of 6.5 IELTS, and so we accept other tests like the Cambridge test, so on TOEFL, IBT. So there are other tests available, but it's the equivalent of 6.5.
Perfect. I can see in the meantime that Teddy also put in the chat the email address for the admissions team. So yes, of course, in case you have any specific questions that are related to your specific background, feel free to reach out to the team and they will be able to answer specifically case by case. We have Nancy asking us about scholarships. So if there is any sort of financial aid or scholarships available, and if so, what would be the procedure to apply?
For non-EU students, there are some scholarships available. Some are supported by the local governments. We know that that happens, for example, in Brazil. There are some scholarships available for Brazilian students. It tends to be, there's not that many because our fees are affordable. For European students, they already are a discounted level of fees because we have an arrangement with so many partners, as we said, more than 100 partners. So we couldn't have different fees for every different partner. So Europe is set at one level and international is slightly higher in general. European students don't have any scholarships on what we offer, but international, there are some available. Again, that would need to be a question, a follow-up question, and it's done on an individual basis.
Perfect. And he's also answering another question they were asking us about if a good academic performance could be considered one of the criteria to get a scholarship. So in this case, as Neil was mentioned, it would be case by case. So you can just get in contact with the team. Questions about the length of the program. So they're asking how long does it take to graduate and if it's a 2-year program.
No, it's a 1-year MSc.
Perfect.
So that's two taught semesters when you attend classes, and that's two lots of 12 weeks, or 13 weeks is a week in the middle. And then there is a 3-month, 3 to 4 month spell where they prepare their thesis and dissertation.
Perfect, thank you. Questions about internship. So they're asking us if internship is mandatory and if it should be taken only in Ireland or also somewhere else, and if it's possible to internship in some places you showed before, like Google, for example.
As far as I'm aware, there are no internships built into any of the master's program, so it's not obligatory. There are a lot of master's students who work during their time, including in some of those high-tech companies that we've seen, or in financial services. but it's not part of the course, and it won't be assessed as part of the course.
Perfect. You were mentioning before about the career office. So I know that maybe not all the in all the countries there is this opportunity. So maybe we can just spend a few words about what a career office does and how it can help the graduates to land in a job.
Yeah, so the careers office is there to help all students. So it's not just for Irish students, it's not just for undergrads, they're there for everybody. They will help in several ways. One of the things they can do is help students find part-time work while they're in Dublin. So because we have a big turnover, Dublin has a big turnover of students, so there is always lots of part-time jobs available in cafes, restaurants, shops, small businesses. But as I said, some of the larger companies, the IT companies, financial services, will take on master's students, to have a look at them during 6 months or so, to hopefully build a career. So the careers office can introduce that for part-time work. They will also be able to help students create a more vibrant and interesting resume or CV. And because there is a great deal of difference between what a typical resume or CV looks like in Europe, in Scandinavia, in the US, and in Anglo-Saxon Europe, which is Ireland and the UK. And so creating an appropriate document is very useful, and the careers office will do that. And finally, the careers office are there to help point the students in the right direction, to give them advice about interviews, to help set up meetings with companies, and to give them lists of contacts, etc. So there's lots of ways that the career office helps. And and I would say to all students, get in touch early. Don't wait till 2 weeks before you're due to finish and leave Dublin and say, oh yeah, there's a careers office, I want to speak to them. The earlier you go, the more that they can get to know you and the more that they can help.
Perfect. This is such great advice. And actually, by answering these, you already answered to the question of someone that was asking if it's possible to work during the study year. So yes, it's possible, part-time mainly, and the career office can help. Asking about the selection process. So they're asking how is the selection done to join Dublin Business School, and if there is any particular cutoff undergraduate course to get the admission. And I also maybe wanted to ask if there is some sort of deadline that students should keep in mind.
Yes, again, I'll distinguish between Europe and non-European students. For European students, basically the deadline is up until the end of August, assuming that they have all the transcripts, they have their proof of English, they have the documentation. It doesn't take as long to process European students who have the right to live and study in Dublin and who have the documentations. For non-European students, the difficulty is not whether we can process documents, it is obtaining the visa. And they have to, pretty sure they have to apply locally to the Irish authorities to get the visa. We supply them with a letter to say that they have applied and that they are accepted and stuff. So anybody who needs a visa will need to start the process a bit earlier. I would say the earlier you can start the process, the safer it's going to be that you're going to get the visa in time and that you're going to be able to travel to Dublin when you like. But basically as a school, as long as you've got the visa, as long as you've got the documentation, we can accept applications fairly late.
They were wondering about the selection process. So
we set the criteria for entry. I don't think in any of the master's programs we are limited in the numbers. So that means as long as you obtain the qualifications that you need, your bachelor degree is of a certain standard, your English is good enough, etc., then you will be admitted onto the program. Again, the earlier that's done, the more secure that is, because, for example, if you wait until the end of August, and we have kind of looked at a program and said, right, we've got 50 students studying that program, that's enough. Because if we add 51, we need to use 2 classrooms and 2 tutors, etc. So we might cut it off at that point. But in theory, we don't have limits.
Perfect. Questions about, so we mentioned about different levels. They're asking, is the Trinity C1 a good level to do the master?
Is?
They say Trinity C1, a good level to do the master. I'm not sure if it refers to a particular course. Maybe whoever wrote the question, if you can give us some more, I don't know if they're referring to some language test that or something else. So maybe whoever wrote the question, if they can give us an insight, probably it could be helpful. And ISE 3, that's what they're saying. We can have a look, and also as we mentioned, for all the very specific questions, because I believe in each country there are different sort of level degrees and examination that you could take. We mentioned earlier which are the one, for example, IELTS and any other TOEFL tests that are actually accepted. But in case there are any other, please send an email. Teddy puts the email address will be admissions@dbs.ie, and it will be actually the best way to find out more. How is the situation with COVID? They're asking us. Are classes in person? I know there was a slide that Teddy before showed us, but if we can give some sort of highlight if at the moment we're back to normal and what they can expect for September 2021.
Yeah, well, Teddy, do you want to?
Yeah, no, I will answer this one. So we have an intake in April, and for the students who started in April, they are on campus, not fully on campus. They have a same rotation system, but they are on campus at the moment. For September, Neil told you, like, we're gonna work hybrid. So part of it will be online, part of it will be on campus. It's hard to know the percentage. It will really depend on the vaccination rollout, of the guidelines that we will have to follow. At the moment, the social distancing is still 2 meters in Ireland. So it's quite big. We cannot fit a lot of students in the classroom. The government is planned to release a statement in June. If the social distancing is reduced to 1 meter, it will change a lot of things for our teaching in September. So it's a bit too early to speak. We know that we will be having some face-to-face during the lockdown we had at the end of the year in 2020. Only the international students and first-year students were still coming in the DBS building. So we know it's important for you. We'll try to keep it as much as we can face-to-face delivery and to increase this percentage. But it's still too early to know exactly what's going to happen in September.
Perfect. So yes, I mean, things are changing as we speak. There are different rules set all the time. But I mean, everything, of course, is done to make sure that there is safety, a very safe environment, and all the information, of course, will be given. Actually, I was thinking, if someone puts an application through, when they can expect to hear back from the admission team? How long is it usually pass from the application till they hear results?
Well, typically, if they apply and all of the documentation is sent at the same time, it's less than, say, 5 working days, about 1 week, typically they would receive an answer. It takes longer if, they send an application and we go back and say, please send me your passport, and then please send me this document, etc. So If all the documentation is in place, it takes about a week. If not, it takes a bit longer.
Perfect. And in case, I mean, we have a lot of international students connected. In case students would like, let's say, to get in contact with some peer, for example, or alumni, is there maybe on the website a session where they can join some sort of groups or get in contact with someone who's currently studying at DBS?
Yeah, Terry.
I think if we ask the students experience teams, they must have something. I think you can find easily on Facebook groups of foreign students studying in DBS. Also have a look on LinkedIn. DBS is pretty active on it, and there is some alumni on it as well. But I will really recommend Facebook. I think you can find the group easily. And as well, if you would like to find more things about the current students, we can always ask the students experience teams that they will guide you to the student union and the peer mentors as well.
Perfect. So yes, in case you're wondering, there will be probably lots of Facebook groups, and on the website you probably be able to get in contact with the team. Before, Neil was mentioning some key advice, for example, apply early, make sure you have all the documents in place. I wanted to ask, since you've probably been going through a lot of applications every day, is there any sort of advice that you feel like giving to someone who's preparing to put together all the documents for the applications?
I think what they can do, if they wish, if it's a straightforward application, when I say straightforward, they know they've finished, they know they have the transcripts, they have a recent, and by recent I mean within the last 2 years they've an English test that says that their English is good enough, they don't need a visa and all of that sort of stuff. They can put it together and send it to us. If they have any questions at all, then get in touch with the admissions team, because we're always willing to give advice and say, what extra is needed, is it relevant, is it appropriate, etc. So we're always happy to talk to students.
Yeah, I think the biggest advice for the students, all international students and even European one, is to have all your documents translated already. You can lose a lot of time in the translation of the documents. We are working only through English documents. So your bachelor parchment needs to be translated. All your transcripts needs to be translated as well. So start this work early, because usually it can take some time for you, for your home university, just to give you the document and to find a accredited translator and so on. So just have all the documents already translated, and it's going to save you some time.
In case someone, for example, puts an application through but is not successful, is there a way to try the application again, maybe the next semester, in case, for example, it's been denied for some reason due to, I don't know, not enough good level of English or any other sort of things? Is there a possibility to reapply?
Yeah, I think it would depend on why they were refused in the first place. If they'd completed their bachelor's degree and were refused on the basis that the bachelor's degree, either the level that they scored was too low, or it wasn't appropriate for what they wanted to study. If somebody had studied mechanical engineering and wanted to study psychology, they're unlikely to be allowed into psychology. So if they were refused for that type of reason, that the inappropriateness or the level of bachelor's, then they're unlikely to be accepted the next time they apply. If the problem is the level of English, for example, then they can go off and do some English courses or resit a test in order to improve their score. One thing we should mention, we're talking in general about starting in September, but we also have intakes in January and in April for international students.
Perfect. That's good to know.
For master's level, not for European students in April, but international students, January and April too.
Perfect. So that's good. So in case, I mean, we mentioned September, but then of course for international students, in case, you know, e-visa or any other sort of document, it might take longer than, as Neil mentioned, there are also some other deadline. Meanwhile, they were just commenting that they were probably referring to the Cambridge test. So in this case, we've posted the admission team email address, and they'll be able to answer all of the questions that you might have. I also wanted to remind whoever is following the webinar that we are recording the session, and we will be sending you an email after the event with some useful links that you can visit, and then the recording of the webinar. So in case you missed or you want to rewatch some key points, you will be able to do it. So there is still time for some questions. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to write them into the Q&A. And meanwhile, I wanted to ask Teddy and Neil if there was anything else that they wanted to add, maybe some sort of remarks or any other aspect. Of course, it's very hard to try to summarize an experience in an hour webinar. And I mean, you did great by presenting all the academic offering and Ireland and Dublin. But in case there is anything else that comes to your mind that could be useful for the audience today.
Well, I would, if I leave aside, right, so we've given a good overview of the types of programs we offer and how we deliver academically and what is our thrust academically. You know, it's a practical degree, it's not a very theoretical degree. We've explained what the school is and why we think that school educationally is a good idea. What I can say, sorry, I'm not Irish, I'm Scottish, and Teddy is not Irish, he's French. I think that both of us would honestly say that living and studying in Dublin is absolutely great. Ireland has one of the youngest populations in the whole of Europe. Dublin itself is a fairly compact city, which means most of the great places to be and see and visit are all within walking distance. It's an extremely safe place. It has, like anywhere, certain areas of a city where you don't want to wander about at 2 o'clock in the morning, but in general, the city centre and most of the city is perfectly safe for everybody. And the people are genuinely pleased to welcome international students and international visitors. It is one of the friendliest cities in the whole of Europe. So from a cultural, social point of view, I don't think there are many better options than Dublin. Educationally, you need to be certain that what DBS offers is the style and the approach that you want, but certainly from a social point of view, there are very few places as good.
This is great, not to mention all the job opportunities. I mean, we did touch base on that during the presentation, yeah. But there are lots of companies. The headquarters is actually based in Ireland, and that means a lot once you graduate, or just feel like adding this to the list that Neil was just mentioning. And Teddy, I don't know if there was anything else that you wanted to add.
No, I think Neil really summarized very well. It's great city to live in with a huge international community as well. You will hear in the street people speaking German, French, Spanish, Portuguese. Like, it's a very multicultural city where you are welcome as well as a foreign person, which is not like the case everywhere. So no, really great city to live in. Great summary by Neil.
Perfect. I really like to thank Teddy and Neil for their time, and all of you for staying connected and for all of your questions. As mentioned, we will be sending you an email after this webinar, which contain a useful link and email address you can contact in case you have any further questions. And I really like to wish you all good luck. And, you know, if you put an application through, hopefully you get to visit Dublin and meet our speakers in person then. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time and for the presentation.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And again, if anyone's any questions, just please get in touch.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.